Sorry, folks, I'm gonna wait just a second for people to join because I posted all over the place that I was just about to start streaming. So I want to make sure that I get people in here before I get going because I want to talk about some deck lists first and some conceptual things about this list and see if I want to patch up any issues with it. Alright, so hello, my name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University. I'm starting a little bit later than normal. I had some real life stuff that I had to take care of today, but now I'm ready to go ahead and stream. So I run Thraben University, and we care about D&T on this channel. So the first thing I want to do is go and take a look at some of the deck lists from this weekend and see what there is to be learned from those. And then I want to go over my white-white Shalai deck list that I've been playing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit of detail. I've been talking a lot with Zach about some things about the deck list, and he brought up a good point that I want to discuss. All right. So first, let's knock out the one D&T list from the classic. Chat, is this big enough for you to make out, or do I need to zoom in a little bit more on this? How is this in terms of size? Okay, it's fine. Great. Okay. So here's the list from the classic. This got 6th place. It's essentially a very, very, very stock mono white build with like very few surprises whatsoever. The second Containment Priest in the sideboard has fallen out of favor recently, but with the exception of like the one random Pontiff, this is a very, very stock list. Oh, some of you are on mobile. All right, I'll try to talk about the list a little bit. So there's one Orzhov Pontiff in the main and only double Cavern of Souls. Let me see if that helps. Let me see if that doesn't go below my banner, though. Oh, it doesn't. Great. Okay. That's pretty good. This is as good as I can get, basic planes. Okay, so other than the one random Orzhov Pontiff, which is going to be basically impossible to cast, since the only ways to cast are with 2 Cavern of Souls, and this player is going to rely on just filing it in. Other than that, this seems very, very, very stock. You know, this looks like it could be a deck list from quite some time ago. You're here for some big, thick angels? Don't worry, we got plenty of those. Alright. Next, here's the first place red-white taxes list from the Team Open. I've made my position pretty clear on Direfleet Daredevil. I'm not a fan of that card, but most of the rest of this deck list seems fine. I don't love the Mindbreak traps in the sideboard. I don't think that's the best use of your slots in the current metagame, but most of the rest of what's there seems fine. It seems like they're straining the mana a little bit, since 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the lands don't work towards casting these like double white non-creature spells like Gideon and Council's Judgment, and that's why you don't see those in my deck lists most of the time when I'm playing red-white. I think there's a little bit of tension there. So even though this deck list performed well, that maybe doesn't seem like the wisest decision in regards to the mana base. Yes. So Clint's list from the classic played 22 lands. You know, he was trying to squeeze in, you know, one more extra critter, presumably that Pontiff. Like, I think that Pontiff is just better as a land. Here's the 9th place list from the Team Open. Again, pretty stock mono white stuff. Not a lot of nonsense there. Again, you can see some of my favorites, like the Swords of War and Peace and a couple of the deck lists. I'm not the biggest fan of the prelates right now. Like, there's a prelate in this list as well as in Clint's list. I think Wingmare is just kind of better than prelate as a whole right now. That's my general inclination. And I'm going to save Zach's list for last because I actually, like, talked with him. And then there's Andrew Lopez's list, which is pretty good stock red-white. Again, I think Wingmare over Prelate is probably just better, but otherwise I like a lot of what's going on here. As I've said in the past, I'm not the biggest fan of Fairy, although I know some people like it. But like most of this sideboard is what I've been playing, so like I respect what's going on here. And then let's talk about Zach's list. So Zach and I had been talking off and on all week about what he wanted to play and what I wanted to play. So I more or less knew what he was going to be running going into the weekend. So for anyone this is small for, essentially he's playing a mono white list that runs 3 Wingmare like I've been doing. And although he's running 1 Shalai instead of the 2. He wasn't willing to commit to running both of them because he wanted one more piece of like fat in the deck. He was afraid that if he ran the deck list like without Avenger and Crusader, that he'd just be a little soft to a couple too many matchups. So he respected my testing and said that he thought Shalai was good, but you know wanted to make a few changes. And one thing he was trying out was the Banalish Marshal, which he said was really good for the post sideboard games. Maybe not worthy of being main decked, but if you were going to test Honor of the Pure, he said that you should probably just play this instead because it was very, very good. There's a lot of potential to just sort of like wreck people with this card, like viling it in response to something like a Fork Bolt or a Marsh Casualties is absolutely disgusting, or even just like the general team pump out of nowhere can like drastically reduce the clock. So I like Zach's list. I want to talk about something that he talked about because I think it's relevant to my own list. So one of the things that Zach talked about from my original list and sort of with his play experience as well. Okay, so Octavit real quick to answer your question. A lot of the Grixis decks it would get sideboarded in for. Your decks that are going to have things like Dread of Night, Marsh Casualties, stuff of that nature, it comes in there, as well as like some mid-range matchups. So one of the comments Zach made about my deck is that he thought against Delver I was going to have a hard time stabilizing the board in the early game. The reason being that he was used... I'm going to just drag these over here or something. The lists he's used to playing in these slots right here, and to some extent the Shalai slots, he's been used to playing like Crusaders and Avengers, and those help to stabilize the board against things like Young Pyromancers and just like smaller threats of that ilk. And one thing he commented about my list is that it's worse against stabilizing the ground, right? Because Wingmare isn't something that you hold back to trade with, right? It's something that you attack with and you keep its taxing effect around. And Shalai isn't something that you hold the ground with in the early game, although it does that job in the late game. So if we compare this to something like more traditional mono-white D&T, I would have a few more bodies that either hold the ground better or I'm willing to trade relatively easily. So there might be something to be said for my Shalai build here, where I'm actually not giving myself enough of an ability to stabilize the ground in the early game because I've increased the amount of taxation that I have. And so if we compare this to like the red-white build, though, that's the same thing, right? Like that deck has the same problem, but it's not particularly noticeable because this deck taxes harder. So I wonder if that's really an issue, or if it's an adjustment in playstyle that Zach needs to make in playing my deck list. So that's something that I'm currently thinking about, and that I'm going to be actively watching for today. Like, do I have enough ways to stabilize the ground so that I can get to the point where this taxation stuff matters and takes over the game? So that's kind of on my my food for thought pile today. Generally speaking, I like what we're doing. I don't know whether this Holy Light should switch back to being that third path to exile. That's something that I'll just have to play a few more games and figure out. But otherwise, I've liked most of what's going on here. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump into a league. Yeah, basic planes. I think we're just going to run this for today. Like, unless someone convinces me otherwise in the next minute or two. And like, I'm very willing to entertain thoughts. I guess I didn't really give the chat a chance to reply there, so I'll hang out here for a minute. Like, I don't think this deck is lacking in early interaction, right? Like, I have it's like now that I've put the whole Stoneforge package back in the deck, like I have a bunch of strong turn 2 plays. You know, I'm just one Revoker short of what White's been running for eons. So I don't think I'm particularly worse on that front, although like without both Crusaders and Avengers, there is something to be said about that still. Oh, thank you very much for the resub. I really appreciate that. Okay, if Zach liked Banalish Marshall so much, why not test it for yourself? Alright, that's a fair point. I don't know that I want to commit to that card, honestly. Like, I like it in that if I'm going to rely on, like, Thalia and Wingmare to take over matchups, that it can get them out of, like, oh, Fork Bolt, get them both range. But if that's going to happen before the Marshal comes down anyway, so that's not the best. So, like, what do I do with my sideboard if I want to, like, try to fit that in? That's my actual question. I don't know that I want to cut any of the graveyard hate, because as like if I'm going to play in Baltimore, I really want to be prepared for lands, and that means 4 cards that can hit Life from the Loam. So I think that's pretty set. And I want 3 extra removal spells for the Delver matchup, and the ability to like board this in as well. So I don't know that I want to mess with that. This Recruiter in the Guard has just been like gas, and like Relic Order for the Mirror seems good. Like I think you need to either play Relic Order or Sword of War and Peace, and I've just opted towards Relic Order recently, just because that card has been consistently impressing me. So like I feel like the sideboard is tight. I also feel like if I play the Marshals, I might not have enough cards that I want to board out to bring them in. That's another issue. Yeah, the triple white is also like not a non-issue. I think if I like hypothetically, if I dropped the Shalais from the build and I went back to like 23 lands and I got like a few like Crusaders and stuff of that nature in here, and especially Avengers. Like I think if I was playing a couple of Avengers, like the idea of turning those into 4/4 monsters against like Pile and Delver sounds awesome, and I think I'd be on board with that. And like honestly, maybe I should. Geez, do I just like test that tonight? Because that's not nothing, right? Like, kind of go a slightly more aggressive route. Try to play like 3-ish Sarah Avengers by cutting like Shalai, Wingmare. Still run 24 lands. Maybe drop a port. I don't know that the Marshal is going to be good enough that I want to like drastically change what I'm testing, because I feel really good about this deck list. Like, I've got a 63% win percentage with it. Like, that's good. That's where I want to be. So I probably don't want to make those drastic changes. Sylvan Awakening? Is this like a new spoiler? Or is this one from like Dominaria that I'm just not familiar with? So I think I play this for tonight, but I think a Banalish Marshal build with Avengers sounds good. I'll write myself a note. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna run this, you know, and if this keeps doing what it's doing, I should just like play this, and then like beginning next week when, you know, my event is over, then I'll mess with some of the ideas, and I will also owe you all a green-white stream. That was unlocked at some point last week, but I just never got the time to do it due to my out-of-town obligations. All right. I believe my opponent is a D&T player as well. Recognize their name from, I think, some of the forums. Yeah. Ooh, man. It feels really good to be on the play when your opponent doesn't have the Ether Vial. And you have the Ether Vial. And you also have the Rashadan port. Yes, Shalai is a hate bear. I think the term hate bear no longer just applies to like 2-mana 2/2s. We're past that stage. Shalai is a hate bear in the same way that Mirran Crusader is a hate bear. Yes, I am a bear anarchist. That is correct. Should have done this differently, but it doesn't matter. So the reason why I said I should have done it differently is I should have just, like, flicker whisked out a land so that my opponent wouldn't have the opportunity to go and, like, Swords of Plowshares, my Thalia, but I think I'd already established that they probably didn't have one. These Thalias are feeling real bad. No, I don't think there's been anything resembling a good name for Shalai yet. Like, there are, you know, puns and occasional quips and whatnot, but as far as anything substantial, no. Blech. Yeah, but their mana's irrelevant, right? Like, they're gonna Violin a 2-drop, and then they're gonna get Jitta counters, and I'm gonna die. That's what's gonna happen. And if they have a mom to put Jitta counters on here, I just accept that, but I need to, like, push damage right now while I still have the chance. I'm gonna sit here like I'm thinking. And then my Ether Vial's probably going to get Phyrexian Revoker. Nope, that's a Thalia. Okay. Okay, opponent, that was bad. That was bad, opponent. Because now I do this. Yeah, the double Caracas, double Thalia hand is not shaping up well. I had my opponent constricted on mana for a little while in the early game, but then like, I drew into bad cards, they drew into lands, and the vial, so, like, they still have stuff to do and I don't. I am a motherfucking master. Just in case any of you were curious, I am representing this Flicker Wisp so fucking hard that my opponent is not going for it. This makes me quite happy. Now what? Why do we attack with Wisp? Because we need to try to kill the opponent. I am representing a Flicker Wisp off this vial so fucking hard that I have scared my opponent into not attacking. That is our line to win. Okay. Because double porting keeps them from doing other things, and, like, I already showed them the trick once. It's not like they're gonna show that again. And how the hell does my opponent, like, not have a 3-drop either? This is, super interesting. And, like, now I wiggled myself into a position where, like, I've actually blanked the mom with my Thalia now, since my opponent didn't bounce it with Caracas before their Caracas went the way of the Dodo. That's pretty good. I accept this. Oh man, I have active mom. I'll port my Caracas. You bet. I can't really, like, reasonably make an attack here. I'm gonna pass without playing a land. I just want to make it look like I actually have things. My opponent knows I have Stone Cold Nothing. The jig might be up at some point. I do not want the jig to be up. Alright, that's bad. That's bad. That gets a Flicker Wisp. And then I'm boned. Yeah. I don't know why this has to happen exactly right now, but okay. Okay, no. My opponent can go all in this turn then. They can, yep. Oh, Eric, thank you very much for your third resubscription, or I guess second resubscription, technically, right? Because, like, the first one's just a subscription. I really do appreciate the continued support. I think I'm comfortable conceding here. Like, my opponent has Jitte on board and a flyer. My mom is not going to get unlocked. Yeah, I can concede here. That game started off real well, and then I just did not draw sort of a real threat, something like a Stoneforge that could like start warping the game in my direction. I could not take advantage of my tempo advantage very well, being like both light on creatures for the Ether Vial and like not having much else to do. So my opponent eventually got to slip out of the soft lock of port. Neely, let me answer that after I sideboard. I just want to make sure I don't waste too much time. Alright, so probably Relic Order in, Recruiter in, Council's Judgment in, potentially a Path in if I need to fill any slots, and we just go Thalia's out. That's probably all I want to sideboard out. Most of the rest of my stuff is good. So I'll leave the Paths in the board. So, like, as far as what I actually get, this is a mediocre hand, but, like, it has Mom, and it has an answer to a piece of equipment. That's good enough to start with. Active Mom's really important in this matchup. So the subscription is essentially, like, at its base tier is a, like, $5 donation towards my cause. Twitch keeps part of that, and I keep part of that. So when you do a subscription through Twitch, you know, whether it's like you actually pay for it or it's an Amazon Prime type thing, I get half and Twitch gets half. Assuming I make partner at some point, the number of subscribers I have and the number of subscribers I've had contributes to like how many emote slots I get. And, you know, having a decent number of subscribers is something that like shows that my channel has support, and it's something that looks nice when I eventually apply for partner. Alright. Revoke away. Kind of thought that was going to name Mom, honestly. What do I do with my life this turn? I can just, like, Recruiter, get Stoneforge. Next turn, cast Stoneforge, get Jitte. That's fine. It's not exciting, but it's fine. It also gives me the option to just, like, Flicker Wisp my Recruiter. I think I like that. The other option is, like, just play Flicker Wisp, flicker a land for no apparent value. The following turn, play Recruiter, get Stoneforge, and then go for, like, Stoneforge, Jitte, equip all in one go, which is equally fine. I think the ground's going to get real locked up, so I think I have time to fetch the Stoneforge. Okay, so couple of things going on in the chat. We'll go ahead and answer. When you are not a partner, the rate is a little bit worse. When you are a partner, you get when you are a partner, you get a better rate in that regard. Do I ever play Maverick? Yes, I play Maverick sometimes. I think the deck's a lot of fun. I might end up playing Maverick rather than Green-White Taxes for that bonus stream. We'll see. I'll have to see if I can come up with like an actually good Green-White Taxes list. JD, thank you. That is a very kind comment. I do really appreciate feedback like that. It matters a lot. Who drew the Thalia emote? If you're familiar with like the SCG scene at all, and you know Gale, who has worked in the booth in various capacities in the past, she drew that. That is her creation. She goes by TCG Surgeon on Twitter. What does this 2-mana mean? Does this 2-mana mean Disenchant? Does this mean Containment Priest? What does this mean? Does it mean nothing? Does it mean Containment Priest? I really don't want to like Flicker with my own Recruiter, but if it means Disenchant, I don't really want to like just play Stoneforge and Jitte. I don't think it's Priest. Fuck! It was priest. That's fine. Yes, I also really dislike priest in the mirror. Please don't have another land. Fuck. I guess I can, like, take another draw step or two. Sorry, I'm going to take a couple of seconds and just talk to my opponent a little bit about game one, because I'm definitely dead this game. Defox, yes. If you have a needle, it comes in here. Okay, I guess I'm not, like, super dead, right? I guess I can, like, plow mom, replow mom, place... Nah, I'm still dead. Yeah, I'm just gonna concede this one and move on. Two council's judgment I can draw. Alright, fine, I will concede this one. Shalai's been really, really good. I've been super happy with it. I think this is a point where I get Batter Skull. No, this is the point where I get Sword of Fire and Ice to, like, get future creatures out of Jitte range. Because I'm sure as heck not going to connect with my own Jitte anytime soon. Yeah, I don't think Teshar is reasonable. Like, in order for Teshar to be good, like, it's a 4-drop that requires you to have extra cards left over to be good. Like, I don't think that's where you want to be. Like, you want your 4-drops to be just, like, slam them and everything is amazing forever. Okay, now, alright, that's too much. This one was not meant to be. We are not getting there, my god. Oh, so what? I don't think I actually said this. I was talking to my opponent about their sideboarding in chat, and they said they were 1 card short for boarding for the mirror, so they played 1 Containment Priest. Hey Phil, went to the Atlanta Open this weekend, playing 2 Shalai, ended up 7-2 personally for the day. Great. I'm very happy to hear that. Aildeoki, would you send me your list somewhere? You know, like whether it's on like Facebook, posted to the source, Discord, something like that, or was one of because I'd be interested in seeing that if you're testing a double Shalai build because I think that card's very, very good. It doesn't have to be right now or anything, but I would love to see that. So outside of testing, do you think 2 Shalai or 1 Shalai is better going forward? I really like 2. If you play a 1 of non-tutorable card, you're not going to see it a lot. If you play a 2 of a non-tutorable card, as a game goes long, you have a reasonable chance of seeing that. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, I could run them, but like there's a big difference between running it as a 2 of and a 1 of if it's not tutorable. So I think if you want it to be a part of your game plan against matchups like Pile, I think you want to run multiple. The card's also just been nuts. Like all around, it is almost never getting boarded out except very fast combo and Delver. Oh yeah, Aildeoki. I also got many concessions to Shalai in game ones. Like one of my favorites recently was my opponent had like True Name and Young Pyromancer in play, and I just played Shalai and put Sword of Fire and Ice on it, and they just like conceded. Like there was no possible way they could ever beat that. I don't know what my opponent's playing, but we're keeping this hand. What did I cut for them? Essentially, some of the generic beaters became Shalai. So some of the things like Sarah Avenger and Mirren Crusader that you might otherwise see are Shalais. So reps, that's a good question. I've talked to other Shalai D&T pilots about it, and our feeling is the answer is no. Shalai is really good in the mirror in that it like invalidates opposing equipment largely, and I think that coupled with the fact that it's an aggressive flyer makes it good enough that you actually want to keep it around despite the Caracas vulnerability. My opponent just like ant on a bad draw after a mulligan. Do I just like hard read name Lion's Eye Diamond? I feel like I just like slam Lion's Eye Diamond, but maybe I name Lotus Petal since there's an overlap with other decks like Reanimator. Detox, I'm playing 2 Revokers. So that happens. I think I revoke Lion's Eye Diamond because that's what I'm most scared of in the next turn. And then if I'm wrong, I reset it with Flicker Wisp on the following turn. Why do you guys always think it's Nick Fit? I wonder if it's Nick Fit. So for anyone who's new to D&T, what I always tell them is don't play the newest and hottest tech. Don't play all the like cutting edge BS that people are trying out. Learn to play with a good generic stock deck list with things like Mirren Crusader and Sarah Avengers, and then once you have the feel for deck lists and why people are trying out the things that they are trying out, once you understand the fundamentals, then you start like experimenting and trying other things. So XPR3. If you're looking for stock deck lists, I've got a couple up on Thraben University that are real solid. Like I have the mono white deck list that has Crusaders, and then I have a mono white deck list that has like Crusaders and Sarah Avengers. Grabbing either one of those and adjusting a sideboard card or two is probably pretty good. Oh man, I got the hard call right. It's not the best draw. So I'm going to represent that I have another creature to put in off of Vial by casting Flicker Wisp, Flicker Wisping my Flicker Wisp, and then Flicker Wisping a land, rather than just doing the more intuitive, just like violin the Flicker Wisp plan. Banalish Marshall Detox is what you're thinking of. Zach Koch played it over the weekend. He said it was pretty good. No, I think I flicker off of black because that prevents my opponent from going off basically no matter what. And then I'm hoping to draw something disruptive, like literally anything disruptive this turn. That does not count. Oh, Thalia, guardian of Thraben. This is gonna be close, chat. Woody, we lost. Thank you very much for that deck list. I will not talk about that right now, but I'll take a look at that later and give you my thoughts. Maybe in between games. Anyway, Woody, I had a good weekend. It was very busy. I had a planning meeting for Latin Academy, so I was gone all day. Saturday, I drove down, or I guess up, to Northern Virginia, and then I had the meeting almost all of Sunday, and it's like a 3-hour drive, you know, closer to 3.5 by the time I take a stretch break and grab something to eat. So most of my weekend was shot doing that. It was very fun. I enjoyed myself, and I got a lot done, but it was stressful. Oh, you were thinking of Devout Lightcaster. I don't think Devout Lightcaster is particularly playable. My opponent has some big ones. They're casting Adnaz from 3. I wish them luck. Alright. Yeah, and like, that's why my opponent was thinking for so long, right? Is that they weren't sure, like, what they could do to win, and the answer was get crazy lucky with, like, multiple Lotus Petals off of that Adnaz. And it, like, if that's the only way you win, that's the only way you win, and so be it. Like, sometimes you win games like that. Sometimes you lose games like that. That's okay. You don't know what can happen unless you spin the wheel. All right. So, what's bad? Swords, Plowshares, confirm bad. I usually cut one of either Jitte or Sword of Fire and Ice, just because both aren't necessary, and I usually drop a good number of the Flicker Wisps, though not all of them. I can board in Council's Judgment to hedge against Dread of Night. I sometimes do that blind, I sometimes don't. It depends on the exact list. Now that I'm playing these Shalais that really want to, like, stay in the deck, and they're like another thing that lives through Dread of Night, maybe I'm not supposed to do this until I see the Dread of Nights, especially if I'm up a game. I don't know what the last cut is supposed to be. could just like go naked and not play any Flicker Wisps. Which I don't love. I could see like the Flicker Wisp chaining just not being what I ever want to do, basically ever, since I want to just like tutor for a hate bear most of the time, not just tutor for other guys. This hand is acceptable. Not amazing, but acceptable. Like, it opens Vile into port for disruption, and then it has Wingmare and Shalai, and both of those cards are very difficult to beat. This is a slower hand, so I might just, like, lose. But that's fine. Like, if I'm going to lose before turn 2 anyway, and none of this matters. You can't beat their good hands on the draw. You kind of have to hope they have a medium hand to a bad hand, and you beat those. Like, for example, if my opponent just goes off here, there's literally, you know, nothing I can do about it with any of my draws other than, like, surgical extraction. Alright, so Council's Judgments will come in for the next game. Yeah, there's no way that splashing for that pump ability is worth it in any capacity whatsoever. This hand would have been so good if not for Dread of Night. Womp womp. It's okay, it's still fine. Like, my opponent has to win this turn, or I stick Shalai, which might just be unbeatable. To not give them the flexibility of Brainstorm or Ritual, I'm going to go ahead and just port the Swamp, even though that looks a little weird. Yeah, Detox, I agree. Like, if I'm an Ant player and I have, like, a Black Source and a Dread of Night, I will basically keep that hand no matter what in this matchup. Like, it would have to be real poor for me to send back a Dread of Night hand. Just because, like, they're very powerful. It stops, like, Mom and Wingmare and Thalia, while also turning some creatures into, like, not being able to attack, like Stoneforge. It's great. Like, the rest of the hand has to be just, like, unplayable piles of garbage for you to toss those. I wonder if my opponent realizes how insane Shalai is. I think I want to get Sword, because my plan is cast Shalai, then following turn I can go like Shalai and Equip. It makes me a little worse against Goblins. And maybe for that reason I should just take the Batterskull. Can I race Goblins if my opponent makes Goblins? I crack for 7. I crack for 7 again. If they fetch, they die. Maybe I'm supposed to take Batterskull. And then if I get one more land, I can just put Batterskull on Shalai, and that's that. That's close. But getting this can draw me into more hate. And this would also stop, yeah, this would also stop Chain of Vapor as an out. So I'm going to get that. Super punished. My thought was if I ticked up to 3, I could Recruiter for like Leon and Relic Order and get the Dread of Night off the table. Okay, so if my opponent has a removal spell that could have killed Shalai, it can also kill Canonist. So I think my line is Canonist and Port, tick up Vial to 4, and then have Shalai. I think. And I think I like porting better than putting in this piece of equipment. I don't like super care about the piece of equipment. That was a shuffle with the Ponder. Excellent. Sure, Volk is potentially better. I could see that. Fatal push my Canonist. Do it! Do it! Adnaz, right now. Well, Shalai does not interact with that, so... yeah. Opponent, if you take 2 more, you die. If you take 1 more, you die. Okay, yeah. Okay, do I have any reason to Shalai right now? Versus not Shalai right now. I don't think so. I don't think it matters. So I guess I will not. I can't think of anything that beats me. Game 2 win. Game 2 win with Canonist backed up by Shalai. So I know that Shalai did not hit play that game, but Shalai was crazy good that game. Like, if I didn't like spike that Canonist on that turn, I would have just played Shalai. And that would have stopped my opponent from using discard spells on me or killing me with tendrils or removing any of my other threats. And that was good. And then like just having it as something that protects Canonist or Thalia or whatever is good, and having it as something that goes and lives through a Dread of Night and still has like decent power is also good. Ale Deoki, your list seems fine. I like a lot of what's going on there. I can see wanting to have some Serra Avengers alongside Shalai to just like help stabilize the board a little bit. That's something that I went and talked about. Yeah, Red Panda, that was a fun match. It's a very, very fun match. I've played you. So this is going to be my personal data. Lands. This hand does nothing. This hand does something. Keep this. Hope to scry a land at the top. I don't think I can say no to that. So Woody, in game 1 of the mirror, I had like initial Ether Vial advantage, but then I drew like too many Thalias and Caracases, and my opponent eventually got out of it. And then in game 2, my opponent got a Containment Priest blowout. Not lands. My opponent has switched deck. Red Panda, I really like Pontiff right now, but like the more cards you splash for, the more you open yourself up to, you know, getting Delvered. And Killing Form, I'm really glad you like my Soldier Stompy list. I want to play around with that some more because I really enjoyed streaming with that deck, and I think it's better than people give it credit for as well. I have an updated list that like I'll probably play at some point. I did some chatting with Chantel Campbell, who made a pretty good run at the GP with the deck. So I've got some things I want to try out. Good old Delverino. All right. And a Death Rat Shaman. Alright. So, for those of you playing along at home, which do we kill? The best 1-mana 3/2 flyer in existence? Or one hungry boy? It's that. One of those cards is just way better than the other. Oh! Bully mode, activate! That was okay. I enjoyed that. Ah, Red Panda, you were the one messaging me about that Gonti. Okay. Yeah, like, Gonti is theoretically sweet, right? But just, like, impossible to cast. Alright, so we're probably playing against Grixis Delver. Game 1. I win with double removal, spell, and vial. Easy peasy. Yeah, Food Chain is kind of tough for some decks like D&T, where we don't, and Soldier Stompy, where like some of our disruptive angles just don't line up well against Food Chain. Go Gonti and Mono Black Control. It's a serious consideration right there. So in this matchup, what I've been doing is cut the Revokers, cut the Shalais, even though like they're conceptually kind of okay, and then cut one of the 3 drops. I usually go like cut 1 Wingmare, because I am bringing in a handful of non-creature spells, but I don't want to trim too many creatures. Like, this is 20 creatures right now, and that's kind of pushing at the lower end of what I want to actually have, so that like I can just close out games. But this gives me a good amount of removal. Red Panda, I never, ever judge anyone for playing their favorite cards in Legacy. If you can't do it there, where are you gonna do it, right? Right? Yeah. I too am guilty of making bad decisions involving brewing D&T decks. You can get pretty close to building like a mono red D&T deck, but it's just worse than burn. Ooh, no flip on the Delver. Yeah, second Delver. Gross. So what do I want to do? Like, conceptually, I kind of want to play Thalia to prevent my opponent from, like, brainstorm and double flipping these Delvers. But if I play Thalia, then I can't Council's Judgment on the next turn, which is something that I want to do. So I'll probably, like, Stoneforge, get Jitte, and then cast Council's Judgment, get rid of a Delver, and then hope to spike a land somewhere in there so that I can just go, like, Jitte and equip in 1 turn. No, JD, I think I'm really going to want to hardcast this Jitte and equip in the same turn, if I were to guess. I think that's going to be important. I would also accept drawing Holy Light right here. Like, my god, that would be sweet. Do I just get rid of this young Pyromancer before it's a problem? Or do I kill a Delver? The young Pyromancer is a different threat, and it might present more of a problem. So I should probably just get rid of that. Again, it's close. On the off chance that these Delvers don't flip, I want to hold back the Stoneforge Mystic because it like effectively gains me 2 life. Alesha Who Smiles at Death has been something that I've seen other people test in the past. I don't know that it's like actually good, but like I've seen people test it. How greedy am I? Because if my opponent doesn't have a card named Force of Will, and I just like go and attack in with this Stoneforge Mystic, then this game just ends. If my opponent does have a Force, I just play like second Stoneforge Mystic and get Batterskull, or like another piece of equipment, and I'm still in really good shape. Yeah, I'm going in. Ooh. So now what? Like, obviously I'm killing 2 creatures. Do I just kill the 2 Delvers before they can possibly flip and leave the young Pyromancer? The young Pyromancer is pretty bad in the face of the stuff that I can start deploying, but it could spiral out of control. The Delvers would require me to use more counters. I think that's fine, though. I think I kill a Pyro and a Delver, leave them potentially with 1 3/2 flyer. I could have waited to see like if the first Delver flipped before like making this decision, but like I didn't want to get hosed by some random stifle or something like that. That's fine. So I know my opponent has a Diabolic Edict. So I'll play a Thalia, and if they Edict me, I can just bounce it back to my hand. The Edict would cost them their whole turn. Yeah, Woody, I'm a big believer in Shalai. It's not like theory craft anymore, right? Like, it's a real card at this point. Ooh, that's a real good draw. For reasons that will become apparent momentarily. So now I cast Stoneforge. If my opponent wants to Edict me so that I don't get Jitte counters this turn, they have to do it right now. And if they do that, I just like redeploy a second Thalia and get wrecked, basically. So now we just let this Thalia go. Don't need to bounce it. Get the Batterskull for the sake of diversity. And then I'll deploy a second Thalia. Angler. Okay. Again, that's really good. I can just path this Gurmag Angler, put in a Batterskull now, do all of that around Daze and Force. Neat. Or I can just ignore the Batterskull and just get rid of like the Delver. Which is probably better, honestly. Yeah. Easy. I tested a Pontiff in the sideboard and my opponent was like, but it's black. Then did you remind them that it's also white? I want to talk about Pontiff a little bit more. Game to win with removal, spell, and equipment, essentially. So here's one of my problems with Pontiff, right? So what's the matchup you want Pontiff for the most? That's common, anyway, and the answer is Grixis Delver. What's the matchup where you don't want to have to rely on non-basic lands to cast your stuff? It's also Delver. That's a bad set of overlap now, isn't it? So, like, while I accept that Pontiff is a really good card in that matchup and can be super important, at the same time, like, you're exposing yourself to a deck-building weakness in order to put Pontiff in your deck, and it's also a weakness that is capitalized on in the matchup where you want Pontiff. So that can be stressful. So I think the people who are going and just playing Pontiff off of like 2 or 3 sources, like that's overly ambitious. And if you're playing more than that just to accommodate for Pontiff, is that really worth it for what it's doing to your mana base and other matchups? Like, Red Prison's super common right now. If you're playing a handful of fetch lands and like 1 scrub land for Pontiff, is that really good? Like, do you want to get mooned? Because that can really happen to us. Hey, Luxel. We're currently 2-1. We lost the mirror in round 1. We beat Ant and Grixis Delver. I mean, my biggest problem with Pontiff is, like, mathematically speaking, it's tricky to cast unless you commit to it, and if you commit to it, that causes other problems. There's not a safe, oh, I'll just play a couple of sources for Pontiff sort of situation. So Detox, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the article, but on Thraben University, Ken. On Thraben University, I have an article up about the mathematics of splashing. It's 100% worth a read if you're into that sort of thing. My opponent says, I'm actually considering trying to map the probability function of us playing just for funsies. Cape. So my opponent is a regular watcher and I think subscriber to the stream. And I play them almost every stream. Like, it is ridiculous how frequently we get paired. No basic planes, I did not see that. I'm jamming. Boo, okay. So basic planes, what was the gist of what he was splashing for, if you don't mind? So my opponent actually can't connect with their equipment yet. So how do I want to do this? I think I want to play Wingmare. And double Wasteland them? The Noble Hierarch kind of complicates things. I can't really go in for an attack with this sword until I deal with their Jitte. Because, like, if I go with an attack with Mom, then, like, the Jitte on the crackback is death. So I think casting the Wingmare all in all is probably better than Wastelanding them. My opponent probably has another land. Basic Planes, I love you. Alright. Oh, it's just a splash for Shalai, essentially? Okay. Yeah, Shalai and some sideboard cards. Yeah, I don't know that I'm on board with that. Alright, well now that I have infinite lands, I guess I'll blow one up. See if my opponent has like a Batter Skull or something. I've played Yissen in the past. Yissen is not as good as it looks. It's really fun though. Like my god, that card is fun. Yeah, Red Panda. I don't know how long you've been following for, but like a few weeks back, I wrote an article, saying how much I like enchantments in the format right now. Just like generally speaking, I think that enchantments are a great way to go and deal with everything that the format has to offer right now. Hey, you know what card is really good against Umezawa's Jitte? I'll give you a hint. It's Shalai. Well, that wasn't much of a hint. It was more of just a blanket statement. But Shalai is baller against opposing equipment. That's so sad. That's so sad, chat. I took my angel, and I was about to shove it right into his Stoneforge Mystic and make his Stoneforge sad, and he ruined it. What a meanie. Now we're probably just dead. Lingering Souls. How do I get back into this? I guess revoke Jitte? I can trade a Flickerwisp for a Spirit token? That doesn't seem like the best. I'd probably just save this Flickerwisp for a turn or two and try to do something more impressive with it. Yeah, so my opponent is playing some sort of like Bant, Stoneblade, Deathblade type deck, depending on where you want to go and draw that line. More souls. Yeah, alright. I don't think I bounced this Leovold. I don't want to give my opponent any more cards. I don't exactly know what I'm drawing to. But it's not that. Yes, the land count to 24 is because of Shalai. Although more generally, I think 24 lands is pretty good. No, like a lot of people are like saying something like Angel Mom, but like I don't want something like that where it overlaps with another nickname we already have. I think this is our package in. What's out? Swords of Plowshares is awkward. It's not the best card, but like answering the mana dorks can be important. But it's bad against the actual threats like Leovold and True Name Nemesis. It's still possible that I do just ignore them and answer the cards that matter. I want to think to myself here for a minute. So conceptually, I kind of like doing something like this that still leaves me really threat heavy. And just like not overly fight my opponent on the mana front. Tw 24 lands has felt smooth. That's what I'll say about that. Oh, it has so many good cards, but not lands. This is a stinker. This is a real stinker. I think I'm going to keep this and hope that my opponent curves, like, Hierarch into True Name Nemesis. Oh, Jesus, hand's bad. One Holy Light. It's been fine. I can't give it any better than fine. Like, sample size is small. I don't know that it's actually better than a path. It's diversity, though. Like, it's essentially Pontiff without splashing. Like, it's as close as we're getting there. So Red Panda, I see where you're going with that. I don't know that most people would, though. Force pitching a true name. Oh man, if there's a true name that's not hitting the board, I'm a happy boy. Do we just call her, like, Hexy? Because she gives us hex proof and she's kinda sexy? So it's Hexy? I have no idea. If I wasteland my opponent, I actually kind of give them mana, which is annoying. Deathrite Shaman's so good. So if I wasteland my opponent off this Tundra, they go up to 3 mana for 1 turn. But then I have more permanent denial. So I could go, like, land, cast Flicker Wisp, target Wasteland, float mana, cast Ether Vial, Wasteland end step. Man, I almost don't want to wasteland my opponent. But I'm gonna do it. This may give them the opportunity to play a card or two that was locked up in their hand. But that might actually play into this Holy Light that I've got. So I think I'm okay with this. Play a true name. You pitched 1 to force, right? You got it. Yeah. I'm gonna eat that. Do I cast this now? I think I cast this now, because I play around Daze. It doesn't beat Force, but if I let my opponent untap and they play a land, then a Zealous Persecution could, like, save this. So I think I take my 1-for-1 trade. I could have done this in my opponent's upkeep to save 2 points of damage, but if my opponent had, like, a fetch land or something like that, that wasn't going to happen anyway. My opponent just replies, ouch. Gross. Yeah, I can't imagine how, like, good Shalai has to be in Limited. Like, I haven't gotten to do that, but, like, that just seems so disgusting. I imagine that with, like, some of the other derpy angels that they printed, that it's gonna end up being, like, standard playable, too, right? It's just gotta be. Yeah, Moxel, that's exactly what I had in mind. Yeah, like, what are you supposed to do to beat Shalai in Limited? Like, good God. Like, not only is it, like, an amazing threat on curve, the fact that it also just murderizes people with its ability is nuts, and protects you from other removal spells. Alright. Let's go, little buddy, indeed. That could be annoying. Oh, that probably has to just get a Batter Skull, yeah. Alright, that's great. Don't force me. Yeah. Alright, sure, fine, he can't force, but still don't force me, though. Don't Spirit Guide force me. Stupid Deathrite Shaman being good. Hey. If I attack in with all of my guys, all have to be blocked. So I'd lose all 3 critters. Opponent would lose Stoneforge and a Deathrite Shaman. That's probably not worth it. Guess I'm just passing and waiting to draw a flyer. That's sad. Somewhat unfortunately, I have used 3 flyers already. Great, I feel like my opponent has a piece of equipment. God, that's a terrible draw. God. That's rough. That Batterskull plus True Name is gonna be a problem. I feel like the True Name is also supposed to attack there, right? Put me to 7 and make drawing a land the next turn lethal with True Name, basically no matter what. Although, I guess, like, the Deathrite Shaman drains can help close that gap, right? So that's to 6, so land is lethal already next turn, but if the True Name attacks, then it's, like, guaranteed. Yeah, I think that True Name is supposed to attack. Alright. Alright. So we lost that one. So that's game 2, lost to double Deathrite Shaman. And I know some of you might be thinking, but the Deathrite Shaman didn't kill you. Well, that's where you're wrong, kiddo. Deathrite Shamans absolutely beat the crap out of me that game. Oh, wow, we got hosted for a lot of people. I guess introductions are in order. Hello, my name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University. Tonight we are streaming with Mono White Death and Taxes, not this. We are playing Mono White Death and Taxes featuring Shalai, Voice of Plenty. So for anyone not familiar with that card, It's a 4-mana, 3/4 flyer. You, planeswalkers you control, and other creatures you control have hexproof. It also has a 6-mana ability that lets you put a counter on each creature you control, but we're not playing any green mana, so we can't actually do that at all. So to just catch everyone else up, tonight we have played against D&T, we lost. We then beat Ant and Grixis Delver, and then we got the snot beat out of us by a Deathblade deck just now. Oh, Josiah, thank you very much for subscribing. I do appreciate the support. It means a lot when, you know, content creators have people who want to go and keep us creating content. So thank you. Plus, now you get this sweet Thalia emote. We could be playing Gonti in Legacy, Phil. We sure could. And that doesn't mean that I won't, right? This is going to be a tricky hand. So, like, I don't do a ton with this hand early on, but I still think it's a keep, right? Like, we have Mom for interaction. I can play a Jitte turn 2, a Wingmare on turn 3, so, like, I have some stuff that's good against fair decks, some stuff that's good against combo. Like, naturally having this Jitte is a touch awkward when my only, like, aggressive creature could be a Mom. But hopefully, like, the fair stuff, if my opponent is doing fair stuff, and they're F6, so they probably are, hopefully this Mom is worth something. What do you call my deck? Death and Taxes. Like, despite the fact that I'm playing a couple cards different than, like, the normal and stock D&T list, this is still D&T. You know, if you want to, you know, call it D&T featuring Shalai or something like that, feel free. Oh, sorry, that was not directed at me. I thought that was a little bit of a weird question. Personally, I only subscribe for memes, but the community's great. I'll take that. I'm gonna play out a second Mom here to just decrease the chance that, like, Punishing Fire, Return Punishing Fire, Punishing Fire goes and nullifies most of my board. Then I'll put in a Batterskull, and then we'll play Wingmare and really put the squeeze on the whole Punishing Fire aspect of the deck, as well as the Loam aspect. And I've got a Caracas for if my opponent decides to make a 20/20 Tentacle Monster. Got a crop rotation for a Tabernacle there, opponent? That would be decisively okay. Jeez, I hate playing with this card on Magic Online. It's so beyond annoying. Phil is a fan of terrible white creatures. What have I ever done that has given you that idea? Name 37 things. I'm not playing Jitte this turn. I'm going to wasteland my opponent. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to wasteland. And I'm not doing it until their upkeep. Kind of want to just wasteland the Tabernacle. Free up my mana. It would let me, like, cast Jitte and Wingmare. Or, like, cast Wingmare and hold up Caracas. So that's probably correct. There's something to be said for just holding it to, like, prevent a Merit Lodge from hitting play. But since I have Caracas and Wingmare, that's already something that's mitigated. I guess if I want to Wasteland Tabernacle, though, I only give them one more draw to hit a crop rotation to, like, negate what I'm doing by waiting. And they've already played one. So I guess I can just wait till the end step and see if anything changes my mind. So Volpert, there's this card called Punishing Fire that deals 2 damage to a creature or player, and then when an opponent gains life, that can go back to the graveyard. All right, so my opponent is forcing the Wasteland now. That might mean that they want to produce a Merit Lodge. I think I just want to hit this Tabernacle. It's annoying. Sorry, anyway, to finish that thought, if my opponent went Punishing Fire on a Mom, return it, Punishing Fire again. Alright, so that's going to get Wasteland, Ghost Quarter, and Tabernacle. Okay. So now I probably want to put a Wingmare in play so my opponent can't just, like, loam again. So if I want to put a Wingmare, it's 3 mana. I want to, like, sack a Mom here. I can also just, like, try to kill my opponent in 2 turns and, like, not deal with the whole Wingmare thing. And just, like, pay 3, keep all my guys, attack with all of my guys. Play Caracas, cast Jitte. Would open up some of my stuff to dying, but that's probably fine as well. Like, they don't have a lot of time to loam things that matter. This is kind of one of those points where I'm probably okay no matter what. I'm gonna go aggro. two of my opponent's lands that are in play don't actually produce mana. Yeah, so like dredging the life from the loam isn't realistic here. So I guess I just like pay for all of my stuff. Opponent can't actually go and make the Merit Lodge this turn, or I just bounce it. What if my opponent has a crop rotation? They can crop rotation, get like a maze. That'd be annoying. Or they could crop rotation, get a wasteland. Wasteland my Caracas, produce a Merit Lodge. Be generally annoying. But then I can take a hit and I have them dead on the backswing anyway, so that's not that big of a deal. So I think I don't equip the Jitte because that's not likely to matter. And like a post-combat second Caracas might. Yeah. I never count a lands player out. You would like to Punishing Fire a mom. Okay. I accept your proposition. Take 5. When the lands deck is short on lands. So for anyone not like super familiar with playing like with and against lands, the games where they have an exploration and the games where they don't are like night and day different. Because you gain so much tempo by just like getting that additional land drop. It's really quite absurd. Alright, what does opponent have to live? In order to live, they need a crop rotation to crop rotation for Maze of Ith would be just attacking with Batterskull. Yeah, so they have to have crop rotation or they're dead. And I think I go ahead and attack with both. That way, if they don't have a Glacial Chasm for some reason, I just got them. Oh man, that tabernacle's gone. And the Dark Depths is gone. Oh, you don't have many lands left. I know you have a life from the loam, though, so that's still a problem. But, guess who can't play for Glacial Chasm? It's however I pronounce my opponent's big, long MTGO username. So I'm really enjoying all the comments in the chat that say, like, oh, opponent's so dead, there's no way that they could possibly still be playing, and here we are. This is why Lands is a good deck. Like, their back is still very, very, very much against the wall. But, like, they're still alive, right? They're still... I hesitate to say casting spells, because, you know, they're not casting spells, but it's a thing. Alright, so for anyone not familiar with this, with the Glacial Chasm trigger on the stack, my opponent went and copied it with the Thespian stage, so now they have a Glacial Chasm without having to pay the life in order to upkeep it. And without a life from the loam, plus exploration, this isn't really going to be a sustainable pattern. I'm also going to get to untap with this Mom, safely, in all likelihood. I'm also at 38 life, so there's that too. Alright. So that's a loam, target thicket, chasm, grove. Sure. Shalai is okay. Now my threats are literally unkillable. I'm getting there for good measure. I literally don't think my opponent can beat this, right? Mom gives Shalai Pro Red. Caracas bounces and protects Shalai if that somehow doesn't work. Ah, Caracas. Okay, there's a Caracas in the graveyard. Alright, so that's not everything. Opponent can wiggle a little bit. Let's blow this up. I guess at some point I really should just like put this batter skull on the Mom, right? Just so that that doesn't die to punishing fire, return punishing fire. That should probably happen. And that can safely happen this turn. Yeah, my opponent is playing quite well. Is this EDH? You're at 40 life. It'll be more if my opponent lets me keep whacking them. Mom just wants to get in there with her, you know, double equipment. It's like Voltron Mom. And slowly I'm whittling away at their lands. Just mess them up even more with that. That feels pretty good. Opponent is treading water in the way that a kid, like a little kid in a pool, is treading water, but he can't quite reach the bottom, so he doesn't get a break. Yeah. Shalai. Good old Shalai. Alright, so we're playing against lands. After all of that, what were we on? Player draw. It was on the play. Win. Against Fresh Dings. So, what really won us this game? I guess it's like taxation. It was like early aggro coupled with taxation. And I want to say we win with aggro elements backed by disruption. Alright, let's sideboard. Path, great. Surgical, great. Rip, great. Relic Warder, Recruiter, Judgment, Considerations. Let's find out what's bad. So sometimes I trim some swords. You don't really want a Swords of Merit Lodge. Like, it's fine if you have to, but it's not the best. I usually board out Revokers. Sometimes I bring them back in if my opponent shows me, like, multiple Molten Vortex. But otherwise, they only hit the Mox. Probably want this. I probably won't do the Council's Judgments. Probably trim some amount of this, especially on the draw. Can consider trimming Shalai since my opponent has that Caracas, but like they didn't piece that together that game, so maybe they won't again. Can get rid of a Jitte and maybe get rid of a Stoneforge to round it out. Leaves me with 22 creatures, that's fine. 4 1-drop removal spells, 4 pieces of graveyard hate. I'll run that. Cataclysm is just okay against lands. The issue is that they can rebuild much faster than you can. So if they have a Life from the Loam and you Cataclysm them, that's not a real answer to their deck, right? Like, that slows them down. But it's not necessarily like a winning play. I'm trying to think what I want to expose to an opposing wasteland. I think it's my Caracas. His hand's all sorts of awkward. That's gonna get a life from the loam, which I hope just gets discarded here. No, Mox Diamond. Okay. Happy enough to draw that. I can wasteland my opponent off of his Taiga, so they maybe can't cast Life from the Loam in the first place. But if they have another like land that can cast Life from the Loam, then that just gives them one more card to get back, and I'm going to extract the Life from the Loams anyway. So I don't think I do that. Actually, maybe I do, because that would let my mom also live through Molten Vortex. So maybe that's fine. Tricky. I think I'll play this patiently, though. I will give my opponent a Verdant Catacombs off of their gamble, essentially. I do something that looks a little weird here, but you'll figure out what's going on. Wow, opponent did not fetch to discard a land and kill Mom. I wonder if that means they have Tranquil Thicket in hand. Not really well equipped to play around that, though. If I wait, I also open myself up to the red-green dual land that cycles. So I think I just do it now. Make my opponent have it. So I thought about that, but I think that's kind of poor, right? Like, this wasteland could do very important things. I can't cast most of the stuff in my hand. I think I need my lands, but... I'll go with your line, chat. I think this is wrong, but let's do it. Our opponent has 2 trackers, a whopping 4 Krosan Grips. So the way Phil plays this game, Phil has a Sword of Fire and Ice in play. It would have surgical the opponent in upkeep, and been in a much better position. Like, luckily for us, my opponent's hand is just, like, hot garbage, so it didn't matter. We got the loams either way. So, like, in good news, opponent's kind of breaking off here. They need to draw, like, a Tireless Tracker to get back in this game. This eliminates that. Or not that. This eliminates, like, Grove of the Burn Willows as something that matters. Yes, our draws the last couple of turns have been very good. Especially in comparison to my opponent's draws that are basically doing nothing. I mean, there's a reason why Rest in Peace is a multi-format all-star. It cripples so many decks, so many different types of strategies. Hey, you think my, I was gonna ask if my opponent would want to, remove my Leon and Relic Warder with its trigger on the stack and see what happens. Maybe they were curious about that. I never leave home without two. They are literally in my wallet. Seems like a good thing to have. You know, you never know when you're just going to need that protection from graveyard decks. Alright, opponent discarded Wasteland, so whatever they gambled for, they got it. Which I feel like it's probably just Tracker. Or maybe like one of the utility lands. A Tabernacle to slow me down or something like that. Punishing Fire is probably not good enough. I can just play my sword in Wasteland, just kind of decrease the amount of mana my opponent had. Oh, maybe they Corrosive Grip is... No, they're not going to Corrosive Grip, because, like, the Loams are gone too, so Rest in Peace isn't as good. I can, like, Thalia and Wasteland them. That's pretty good. It would leave me with 3 lands. People want Shalai. Why is Shalai better than other plays here? Is there any reason? Like, it just protects this stuff. I guess Molten Vortex being protected is fine. Alright, I'll Shalai. I think this is kind of a, you know, build your own adventure book where all paths probably end in victory. The correct play is probably like Thalia and Wasteland, though. But if I play the Thalia, it makes it harder for my sword to get into play. I would like to remove 1 Tracker Boy. Alright, opponent needed to, like, play a Dark Depths there. Or have crop rotation for Dark Depths. Flicker Wisp is pretty sweet. Alright, so what beats me? Something like a crop rotation for Merit Lodge. So I guess I should play a Flicker Wisp so that I have a blocker for a Merit Lodge. Blink Recruiter, go get something else fun. You would like to Ghost Quarter and destroy a Wasteland. Okay. I would like to Ghost Quarter and destroy one of your lands. We're not going to pick a Thespian Stage, because if I pick a Thespian Stage, they can go and copy a basic land. So I'll pick the Grove of the Burn Willows. On the off chance that this game goes long enough that, like, somehow the Rest in Peace disappears. get this out of the way. It's so big in the way of these lands that matter. We'll put it down here. Not really sure what my opponent's playing to. Like, this Flicker Wisp with Hexproof, it's not going to be targeted. They can't, like, both get rid of Shalai and Flicker Wisp this turn. They don't have Sajiri Step to get this Merit Lodge through. Yeah. There we go. Alright, so game 2 win with I guess that one's kind of attributed to Shalai. So we'll say Shalai backing other creatures. Like, no, we'll say Shalai backing other creatures after surgical. The surgical extraction goes and, like, greatly decreases my opponent's ability to go and do everything. You know, we read a little bit too much into what my opponent had based on their actions. For anyone who didn't watch that entire match, essentially the situation was I end of turn Vial in a Mom. He has Molten Vortex and a land available, but he doesn't kill the Mom. In actuality, he just did not have a land. He had 4 spells, which was statistically unlikely, but I read into that they had Tranquil Thicket and that they were holding it up rather than killing the Mom. I was wrong, but our surgical would have resolved regardless, and once that happened, the game was very, very, very favorable for us. Although my opponent did play quite well, and they gave themselves a lot of opportunities to draw outs, and just were not rewarded for doing so. All right, chat. So let's talk about this deck. So, recapping, tonight was a 3-2. Most of the leagues that I've been playing with this have been like 3-2s and 4-1s, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. So for anyone not familiar with this list that I've been playing, this is in preparation for the Baltimore team event that, oh geez, is now this weekend. We're playing a 24th land where D&T normally plays 23, and we've been trying out Shalai over some of the other generic beater cards that are usually in the deck, like Sarah Avenger and Mirren Crusader. And I hope you saw that game, that whole match really, like why I'm playing Shalai. It does some really weird and warping things to various board states. So I've been pretty happy with this. Concerns that were brought up by other people are that it might not stabilize the ground as well as other versions of D&T, since you don't have like Avengers and Crusaders. But I think the additional taxation I have in Wingmares, coupled with this weird protection of Shalai, is balancing that out okay. Yeah, I've been pretty happy with Shalai. So I feel like the main deck is where I want it to be. Again, still not sure if this Holy Light is better than the third Path to Exile that I'm normally playing, but otherwise I'm pretty comfortable with this, with 74 of this 75. I think this is the debated slot right here. There are some things that like I'd like to have that I don't think I have room for. You know, testing Banalish Marshal is one thing I'd like to do. You know, jamming Sword of War and Peace in this deck is, you know, always something that I want to do, but I don't think that's right. This has felt very consistent. So just to show something else that I've been thinking about, for those of you not regulars to this stream, do I have the red-white Shalai build? Is it this one? Nope. This one? This is another version of the deck, which I guess I should rename. Let me rename this real quick before I forget. No. All right. Properties. What taxes with Shalai. So this is the original version that I started off with in testing Shalai. I was just playing it as a one of alongside P and K. And this deck list also started as a 3 Stoneforge Mystic deck list that cut 1 Stoneforge and Batterskull in order to fit in Shalai. But then I dropped back other things. There's been a lot of talk recently about how a 3 Stoneforge Mystic build might be better than a 4 Stoneforge Mystic build. Or that, that I started that talk. I was wrong. And there's been other conversations, mainly stemming from Mark Koenig, who said, hey, what if we go and we cut Stoneforge Mystic entirely? I think it's too important to the deck's matchup percentages, especially against Grixis Delver. So if you want to try Shalai, but you don't want to commit to playing 2 of them, this is something that might be worth trying. Normally I've been playing 2 Magus of the Moon in the main deck with my red-white builds, but this one just has the 1 so that we can still fit in the Wingmares and the Shalai and the P and K. Do you consider trying out a Mox Amber build? I know it might be for Modern, but what if? So there's someone, I think they go by the handle K-Ponce, who has been streaming Modern Amber taxes. I didn't really watch much of it, but I hosted his channel a bit. It looked interesting. Zach Koch was interested in Mox Amber, and we've had a number of conversations about it. But my big problem is that it doesn't help you all the time, and it's not a consistent mana source. So, let's look at the number of legends I have, right? I have Thalia's and I have P and K. That's not a ton. In order to make this work, I might need to start playing cards that are otherwise subpar. Things like Kithian that would turn it on. And if I'm doing that, I'm going to go more towards the white weenie aggro side, and I don't want to do that. Death and Taxes is a control deck at its heart. And the other thing is that it's not going to let me accelerate into Thalia on 1, which is really what I would want to use that for. And if you want to play a shell like this, then you're going to start playing a whole bunch of weird legends, and I think you're just going to lose a lot of consistency. Are we getting Isamaru in here? Yeah, that's essentially what the Modern build that that guy was playing. It was Kithian and Isamaru, so that you could go and accelerate into Thalia Guardian of Thraben and Thalia Heretic Cathar, and a handful of the usual nonsense that the Modern D&T deck played. It's an interesting idea. I think it works in Modern, where that aggro aspect is fine, but one mana 2/2s, or maybe 1 mana 2/1s aren't gonna cut it here. All right, folks, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here tonight. Thank you to all of you who hopped in from Jeff's stream. I hope you enjoyed this Legacy entertainment and you enjoyed watching Shalai. If so, feel free to follow. I normally stream every Monday and Wednesday night at about 7 p.m. Eastern Time, although it was a little bit later tonight. I hope you enjoyed, and if you really enjoy what I'm doing and you love D&T, check out my website, Thraben University, or maybe even, follow or subscribe. Do whatever you want to do. And I'm going to go ahead and turn you over to another D&T player. I don't know what format he's playing right now, but it's probably going to be D&T. Cheers.